Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is a new edition of the news from Africa and the world, brought to you from DBS TV. Thanks for joining us. We begin the news in Southern Africa, where South Africa has this far recorded over 22,000 coronavirus cases, and that isn't yet the highest or the worst, predicts President Cyril Ramaphosa. He warns that South Africa's coronavirus outbreak is going to get even worse, as more than one-third of the over 22,000 cases recorded came from the past week. Despite the red alert, however, the country is set to begin a gradual reopening after about 2 months of nationwide lockdown. Most restrictions will be lifted as from the 1st of June. The president, while announcing that lockdown measures are to be eased, said the current lockdown couldn't be sustained indefinitely. As a result of the lockdown and the pandemic, the economic hardship and unemployment in South Africa has worsened, and there are hopes that a return to normal would restore economic growth in South Africa. More reopening in Africa is expected, this time around in Tanzania, where it has been announced that university and sport events will resume in June. However, the decision is criticized by opposition, who judge that the Tanzanian president, John Magufuli, is too much in a haste to bring things back to normal. The opposition movement, named Alliance for Change and Transparency, has equally condemned the government's decision to withhold all information concerning the state of COVID-19 in the country. They demand that the government publish updated infection figures of the coronavirus pandemic in Tanzania. It's been about 2 weeks since the last statistics were published, which reported 509 cases, 21 deaths, and 183 recoveries. President Magufuli ordered a stop of the release of information after he cast doubt on the credibility of laboratory equipment and technicians concerned with the pandemic. In East Africa, the western part of Uganda has been hit by heavy rains and floods, causing thousands of Ugandans to be displaced from their homes. As a result of the heavy downpour, 2 rivers in the region overflowed, aggravating the damage. The massive losses recorded include roads, buildings, and properties buried. Now, most of the inhabitants are left homeless and stranded as some struggle to dig out and recover some of their buried properties. This flood isn't the first of its kind in this part of Uganda. Just recently this month, similar downpours and floods have occurred, claiming lives and destroying properties. As the rainy season gets more serious, most damage is expected. In Burkina Faso, after the unprecedented death of 12 suspects in detention, President Roch Marc Christian Kabore has reacted, condemning their death. Following their killing this mid-May, an investigation was opened and still continues. According to the relatives of the 12 victims and some non-governmental organizations, the 12 detainees were suspected of carrying out terrorism. It was found that they were actually civilians who were arrested and were unlawfully executed by firing. They happened to all be of the Fulani ethnic group, notably known to be frequently under abuse from the Burkinabe security forces. President Roch Christian Kabore condemned the killing, calling it unacceptable. He urged people to avoid stigmatization and promised that prompt decisions will be taken at the end of the ongoing investigations. Over to the world, starting with Brazil. The country is now ranked the second in the world with the highest coronavirus cases after the USA. After its first confirmed case in late February 2020, today Brazil has recorded a high that is the second highest figures of COVID-19 in the world. The current figures stand at over 365,000 cases and over 19,000 new cases daily, with over 22,000 deaths this far and over 1,000 deaths daily. Mass graves are being dug in the country, especially in Sao Paulo, the epicenter. Accused of mishandling the health crisis, Brazil's president Jair Bolsonaro remains firm, despite calls for his impeachment. The country's health minister has, however, warned that the figures are likely to be several times higher than what is presently reported. And in response to the growing rate of coronavirus cases in Brazil, the US has suspended traveling for people from Brazil. Despite being the highest hit country in the world, the USA has imposed travel restrictions on all foreign nationals who have been to Brazil in the last 14 days. This restriction is meant to ensure that new cases are not imported into the USA from Brazil. The restriction begins as from May 28, but will, however, not affect trade between both countries. Over in Asia, amidst the growing infection and death rates from COVID-19, mass graves are continually being dug in Yemen in unexpectedly high numbers. Official reports say the disease has killed 39 people in the country's south largest city of Aden, but a great number of freshly dug graves in the area shows a much higher figure. NGOs report that over 400 people have died of coronavirus-related symptoms in just a week. While the true numbers are unknown, cemeteries and Yemeni grave diggers are overwhelmed as more and more graves have to be dug. They now dig 5 times more graves than they used to bury the dead suspected to be COVID-19 victims. That is how we saw it in today's edition of the News in Africa and the World. Thank you for being with us. Goodbye.